and welcome to Ridge Theory. This is a follow-up to Scale Lesson 1, where we learn what a scale is and how a scale is constructed. In this video, we're going to talk about a special scale called the chromatic scale. Chromatic comes from the Greek word chroma, which means color, and it's the perfect name for this scale because in the chromatic scale, instead of being limited to the 7 tones in the major scale, we can use all of the pitches or all of the colors available to us. Before we start talking about how it's constructed, let's take a look at the piano, because the piano already has the chromatic scale laid out. Remember, the first property of a scale is that all of the notes need to be in ascending or descending pitch order. And in the chromatic scale, we want to play every single note. So we'll start here and play every note, black and white key, in order. It's pretty simple for anybody to sit down to a piano and play a chromatic scale because you're just playing the notes in order. But let's talk about that second property of a scale, how it's constructed. And it's not just the notes that we play, but the interval between notes. The interval from C to the next note that we play, C sharp, is a half step. And the interval between that note and the next note is also a half step. Between D and the next note, it's, you guessed it, a half step. And a half step all the way up. So another way we could define the chromatic scale is that it is a scale where the intervals are all half steps. Creating a chromatic scale this way is easy if you have an instrument with a keyboard, like a piano or a xylophone, or a fretted instrument like a guitar or a bass. But what if you play an instrument that isn't visual? The chromatic scale isn't neatly laid out on a wind instrument, so it may help you to start from a scale that you already know, like the concert B flat major scale. Then, using a resource like a keyboard or your fingering chart, fill in the missing notes of the chromatic scale. For example, the first 2 notes of the concert B flat major scale on alto saxophone are G and A. If I look at my fingering chart, I'll find that there is a note in between, named either G sharp or A flat. And those are 2 different names for the same note, or in harmonics. I then put those 3 notes in pitch order: G, G sharp, A. And I get 3 notes, each separated by a half step. And I continue this process for the entire scale. I have a scale created entirely out of half steps, or a chromatic scale. A wind instrument without a chromatic scale is a little bit like a piano with no black keys. You can still play music, but you're very limited to which notes you can play. When you play a chromatic scale on a wind instrument, you're playing all of the notes available to you within a given range. In the description section of this video, you'll find a link to a website, or a link to a worksheet, where you can practice creating chromatic scales. First, by writing the scale on a staff, and second, by creating a chromatic scale from a major scale by filling in the missing notes. When you do this, you'll find that a lot of the notes have 2 different names, or enharmonics. The way that G sharp is also called A flat, or that B flat is also called A sharp. The rule for choosing which name to call these notes is this: the note that follows a sharp note will be higher. The note that follows a flat note will be lower. So in the chromatic scale, if I name the note C sharp, I'm saying that the next note will be a half step higher, or D. If I name that same note D flat, I'm saying that the next note will be a half step lower, or C natural. Keep that in mind as you construct some chromatic scales on your own.